Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's brought to you by Connors and Ferris, and we're happy to have with us in our What They're Talking About segment in Pittsburgh. It is Jeff Hathhorn. He is the sports director at 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Mike, how are you? It's game week, isn't it?
It is, and I love Bills and Steelers. I wish they were in the same division. It could have happened years back. I think it was Ralph Wilson that put an end to that, but that's another story. But when the Bills and the Steelers play, it's always interesting. But I would tell you, this is not what you expect with Bills Steelers coming into the game. We'll get into the quarterback. We'll get into all of that in a second. But the Bills are 14-point favorites on the Steelers. The Steelers are never that big of an underdog, are they?
No. In fact, it's been since Super Bowl 30 that the Steelers were this big of an underdog. And they gave Dallas all they could handle, but did lose that game. But yeah, I mean, listen, the Steelers have had some times where they've had okay teams or slightly above 500 teams. But, this is I understand Vegas looks at a struggling offense and sees a Bills team at home, coming off a big win against Baltimore. And man, Steeler fans aren't used to this. This whole season so far has been a whole different dynamic for them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And now they make the big move. And as we're recording this on Tuesday, they made it official that they're gone with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. Are you surprised at all? Did you see it coming? Did you think this was the time it was going to happen?
So we knew eventually it was going to happen. And a little background, Mike Tomlin, he wanted to start a veteran guy. He's got Cam Hayward, Watt, Fitzpatrick, guys that have been around the league. And most of those guys don't want to see a rookie step in when you feel like you've got a shot to make the playoffs. So he gave Trubisky every chance he could. Every preseason rep, every training camp rep, all with the first team was Mitch Trubisky. So we knew it was going to happen eventually. But, last week, Trubisky got all the first team reps. So there was no hint of it. But I think Mike Tomlin, I think he was genuine in what he said, that by halftime, he knew that they needed to make a change because the offense just wasn't doing, not that it's always Trubisky's fault, but they had to make a move.
It's interesting when people look at the way teams handle young quarterbacks. Maybe it was a little different because Josh Allen was drafted 7th overall. But you know what the rap was on Allen coming in raw, trying to figure out with his skills. And I say this to people all the time. From year 2 forward, the Bills did everything right with Josh Allen. But year 1, he came out of training camp as the 3rd-string guy. Then they cut A.J. McCarron. Then they moved him up to 2. Then Nate Peterman started the first game. And halfway through it, they benched him, and Josh was the starter. So all the great plans of letting him sit for a while lasted all of a half of one blowout game in Baltimore. And Allen dealt with it. And it was not a great team, and we've seen how he's risen. You've been around Pickett, certainly at the University of Pittsburgh also. Right. Is he the kind of guy at 24 years old as a rookie who can handle maybe the ups and downs of taking over a team that's been struggling?
I think that's one of his strengths. I really do. I think he's very mature. Guys said when he walked in the huddle for the first time in his NFL career that it was like he had been there before. Like he understood the situation. He knew how to communicate with guys. Tomlin said that he's been doing it the entire time, even when he was the backup. Like his energy was good. He's got this. The really good quarterbacks have that charisma, that swagger. Some of them take it over the top, and then some of them, can deal with that and still be, decent humans, if you will. And I think Pickett falls in that category. He's been through a lot at the University of Pittsburgh. He waited. He took that last year to try to elevate his draft status, and obviously that worked for him. And now he waited again. He started out the 3rd-string quarterback, and I think Mike Tomlin did him a solid because if he would have come in and anointed him the number 1, he wouldn't have earned the respect that he's now earned. I think he's handled this from Pickett's perspective. Even though Kenny would have wanted to start week 1, he's handled it really well to where Pickett comes in with no pressure, even though he's their 1st-round draft pick.
Yeah, because when you look back at it, it's not going to really matter whether he was week 1, week 5, right? Whenever he gets in there. Mahomes waited till year 2, and he was ready to go when they decided to make that move. And when you're ready, you're ready. Bills fans, I don't think were as focused, certainly on quarterbacks in the draft, and maybe if they aren't following it as much in college. You saw Pittsburgh take the guy from Pittsburgh. What kind of player is Pickett? I mean, you saw him there. You've seen him in practice. You saw him for part of a game or half of a game this past week against the Jets. What are they going to see as a player when they see Pickett this week?
I'll tell you a quick, funny Pitt story. We were talking to one of their coaches, defensive coaches. When Kenny started as a freshman, he played scout team. Well, Pitt you're allowed to hit the quarterback when you're on scout team. You get hit, you're not off limits. And he said Kenny used to get hit by the starting defense and would laugh and get up and more or less say, why don't you try again? He has that type of bravado. He's not afraid to take a hit. He took a big hit on Sunday. He completed a pass to Pat Freiermuth down the middle. And he was asked about it. He's like, that's part of the job. You stand in there, you get hit, you're going to get hit. So he has that toughness that I think Pittsburghers really appreciate. And I know people in Buffalo appreciate toughness like that. He's got some mobility to his game. He can roll out and complete a pass. He doesn't have as strong an arm. I mean, who does compared to Josh Allen? Very few. But the arm isn't quite where it is. And, these things were the hand size. That was a huge deal in the draft. So maybe he doesn't have the ability, the ball sliding ability that some other guys do because of his hands. But listen, he played at a Power 5 conference, led them to a championship with the same hand size, and brings a lot of intangibles. He's not a flashy guy, but he's the guy at the end of the day. You're like, wow, he just threw for 280 and 3 touchdowns, and I didn't even realize.
Yeah, you mentioned the way he's handled himself, and I've always been, to compare him just for the growth we've seen in Josh Allen, is that at each stage, and we haven't gotten to those stages yet with Kenny Pickett, Allen handled his situation. Coming in as a number 1 pick, and then being elevated to starter, then becoming the franchise guy, then getting paid. Each one of those steps, he, I believe, handled it for his teammates, which is in part why he's been so popular in the room. And I think that's an underrated thing with a quarterback because there's so much attention that goes on to this guy. And him playing in the University of Pittsburgh, fans really appeared to be wanting to see him out there. For him to handle this at different stages, the ups and the downs, I think is going to be a huge thing for him.
Yeah, and, he refused to talk to us because during the last few weeks, because he didn't want to take anything away from Mitch. So he's also got the awareness about he knows the chants are there. He knows all that's being said, but he didn't want to disrupt the team. He's not a me guy. It sounds like Josh is very much the same thing. And we should probably both credit the 2 head coaches who were college teammates, who I think have both handled the situation very well.
Yeah, defensive guys handling a quarterback, which sometimes it's more about people than it is about the position itself, but everybody knows the strength of the position. All right, let's talk Mike Tomlin here because, everybody knows he's never had a losing season. He's a Super Bowl champion, all those things, one of the greats. And Pittsburgh just has those coaches through the years. But I think it was Deontay Johnson that mentioned the R word, the rebuilding word. Are the Steelers a rebuilding team?
And then on Monday he walked it back, probably at the suggestion of several people within that organization. I think they are, personally. I think they need to have that mentality. It's not that you can't, and it's different than baseball where you bring up all these minor leaguers and it's a different type of rebuild because your roster is only so big. So you can't make sweeping changes. But I think you saw that Montravius Adams starting instead of the 35-year-old Tyson Alualu. You're going to see some other moves. Akella Witherspoon going to be the starting corner. Now he's out for the game, but he won the starting job. They didn't bring back Joe Hayden. So I think that was another sign that they understand that they need to build towards something bigger. But as an organization, they're never going to say our goal is in the Super Bowl or we expect to win the Super Bowl every year. Listen, people here in Pittsburgh are spoiled. They think it's their birthright to see winning football, even though a few generations ago they never saw winning football. But this group, people that are in their 40s or younger, they don't know any other type of football, or even 50s or younger. So Mike Tomlin gets heat because of that, because they expect a winner every year. But I think you can see some of these moves, again, while it's not being said, that they understand that they need to grow to get back to where they're not a Super Bowl level team right now.
Yeah. again, with Mike Tomlin, which again, the maintaining a team through all the Ben years and everything that went on is one thing. And I'm not saying hot seat because that's silly. I mean, he's done so
It
much.
is silly, yes.
But is he a guy who adapts well enough? Because the game changes. And we've seen it in Sean McDermott. He's had to adapt. He's become much more aggressive offensively. He's had to turn things over to his quarterback because it is a quarterback-driven team when he's a guy built for defense. Is Mike Tomlin, who has already shown he can do it, the guy who, with a young quarterback again, can lead this team back again to not just winning, but winning big?
I think Mike Tomlin's strengths, or at least one of them, is when the chips are down, he's that guy. He knows how to push buttons. He knows how to motivate a room. I don't think he's a great X's and O's guy, and I think there is clock management issues, as there probably are with every coach. There are decisions made that you question. But I think this is truly his thing. Like telling guys, hey, they don't believe in you, or they don't think you can be it. Like this should be right up his alley. He loves the game. People are going to get frustrated here because his team isn't going to win a lot of games. But I think in the room where it really matters, I think his message will resonate. I think he's that type of guy, and his genuine love for his players and the game, I think will show through and get them through this season to where they can start rebuilding. And they hope that this is the quarterback that's going to lead them to their next Super Bowl.
Well, that was the next part because he's used to having the veteran.
Yeah.
You think he's excited to have a young quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He loves it. I'm telling you, people might think I'm crazy. He loves being counted out. He loves adversity. He loves the challenge of it. They could be without a secondary of starters, with the exception of Levi Wallace, who you know very well.
Yeah.
But he loves okay, what are we going to do? I want to take this challenge and we're going to make this work. It's just, he's a very intelligent man. And I think he's driven by challenges. And this is just another one for him. And I personally think Mike is a great coach, great man. He doesn't like the media, but that's fine. That's not his job. His job is to coach football, and he's been very successful at it. Has he won enough championships for Pittsburghers? No, he has not. There are a lot of factors that go into that, and he doesn't run away from it. But he's still a heck of a football coach.
Yeah, you mentioned challenges. Playing without T.J. Watt is a challenge, and we saw what he did when he came into Buffalo last year. Mm-hmm. If I got it right, are they 0-7 in games he hasn't played? What are they? I mean, it's obvious what they miss, but he's got to have not just him on the field himself, but what he does for everybody else on that defense when he's having that impact, especially if you got a struggling secondary. They'll miss him a lot again on Sunday, won't they?
Yeah, they will. And, the attention that T.J. Watt means more attention to Cam Hayward. So you don't see Hayward making those type of plays. And you slide into Malik Reed. Well, Malik Reed is a nice backup guy, but he's not T.J. Watt. They count on T.J. for so much. Actually, the other outside linebacker, Alex Highsmith, has really had a good year. He had several opportunities that he missed against the Jets. He was still providing pressure. He's still been a force and has improved a lot. But without TJ, it's to your point as well. If you don't get that pressure, you're going to expose a secondary, especially one that's playing with injuries. And I think we've seen that in a couple of games. And it's also trickled down to their run stop. They just aren't the same. I'm not saying TJ is the greatest run stopper. But again, if you have to worry about TJ Watt, then that frees up somebody else, and those people aren't getting freed up. And I think the Steelers, to their disservice, I think they've seen some guys try to be heroes, and they've gotten out of where they're supposed to be, and that's created issues.
Yeah, well, he's going to probably be giving them the McDermott line of do your 111th, which is a thing we hear all the time.
Yeah, we've got Tomlinisms. I'm sure you have McDermottisms.
Yeah.
There must have been a class of William and Mary that taught all of those things.
And they stick with them all the time. You mentioned that secondary, and I know by the time, we get to maybe game time stuff, but guys is Minka Fitzpatrick banged up too? Is that another guy that has maybe have some issues for this weekend?
Yeah, so as we're talking now, he's dealing with a knee injury. He's going to be limited in practice, and they're going to see how it goes. It happened late in the Jets game, but he took a play off and went back in because – that's just what great players do. They suck up the pain. But Terrell Edmonds, obviously you have an Edmonds in Buffalo, is in concussion protocol. We'll have to see how that plays out. Cam Sutton, who's their starting corner and a guy they love to move into the inside, is dealing with a groin and a hamstring injury. And then Okella Witherspoon, as I mentioned, is out for this game. So they've got a lot of questions. You're going to see a lot of James Pierre, who is an undrafted free agent, who has been inconsistent at best. Levi Wallace, now all of a sudden he goes into a lot bigger role on this defense. We'll see how he responds.
Yeah, always loved Levi here. We had the Trey White #1 draft pick, big star at LSU. And on the other side was Levi, walk-on at Alabama, undrafted free agent, lasted for that time. And I was glad to see him surface with a franchise like Pittsburgh. I was a little surprised that the Bills let him walk, only because, Trey White's coming off that knee. He's still not back. But the Bills went young in the secondary from that point. Now, they're drafting 2 guys in this draft. Now, let's go back to the offense at the wide receiver position. And you mentioned Freiermuth before at the tight end spot. But Pickens has really seemed to be the spark on the outside for this team at wide receiver. Compare him to where Claypool is now, because when Claypool got started, I think people were thinking future star there.
Yeah, the inconsistency with Claypool is maddening. He spent the summer with Brandon Marshall before training camp, who's a Pittsburgh native, and they talked a lot about things that he needs to do to be more consistent. So far, we haven't seen that on the field. Pickens, from the first day of training camp, was like, "Ooh, yeah, this guy is legit." And I think a lot of talk was, if he wouldn't have had a knee injury in college, he would have been a first-round pick. And the guy has shown it off. His hands, and not just the acrobatic catches, but it's the strength, the combat catches that he's been able to make. I think his relationship with Kenny will be better than it was with Mitch Trubisky, because Kenny's going to be more aggressive and take more shots and give Pickens more opportunities to make plays. And I think he's made some acrobatic catches already. He can also make those catches over the middle. He runs really good routes. There's not enough good things to say about George Pickens other than he still doesn't have the experience at this level. And that's something that, you can't give somebody. That's something they have to go through. And he'll have his ups and downs, but man, this guy is exciting if they can get him the ball more often.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's something about Pickett to Pickens here.
Yeah.
And he'll put it up for him too, won't he? At least he showed that he doesn't mind. Pickett doesn't mind putting the ball up and letting somebody go try to make a play, right?
Mike, here's my analogy between the 2 quarterbacks. I think Trubisky was playing not to lose. That it was so ingrained into his head, don't make a mistake, let the defense win you a game, that he stopped taking chances, or he would tuck the ball or just wait that half second too long.
Yeah.
Pickett doesn't care. Pickett's going to make throws. He's kind of like Roethlisberger in that mentality that, if I see a guy, I'm going to give him a shot. It might be a 50-50 shot, and I'm going to rely on the receiver to make it a 75-25 to where he'll knock the ball away. You saw that on his first pass, and Claypool wasn't able to knock it away from the defensive back. He's going to take more risk, and I think you'll see more of Pickens downfield. And I think it'll be an opportunity for Claypool to try to reestablish his career as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too, because again, you see guys on a trajectory and you start thinking how big they can be, but guys can get it back too. And in the backfield, Harris has been okay so far. It looked like he got a little bit of a spark again going last week.
So he dealt with a Liz Frank injury during training camp and missed most of it. And I think that mentally played into his head a little bit. He just didn't seem as confident with that foot. The other thing was the offensive line had a really bad preseason game in Jacksonville. And I think since then they've improved every week, but it was a struggle early. So I think you combine that with his injury, and he's been tentative. I mean, there are many films out there where you see holes and Najee missed them, where he didn't hit them the way he should, or he tried to bounce it outside. And he even came to us Friday. We asked a very simplistic question to start, and he wanted to say, hey, I want to say this. The line has been good. They've been opening up holes. I haven't found them. I need to do a better job of finding those holes. I think we saw that better against the Jets. Not a great defensive team, but at least it was a start in the right direction. And they've got an undrafted kid in Jalen Warren. He's a change of pace guy, chip on his shoulder guy who played at Oklahoma State. He's not bad. He's a guy who, not just on third down, but he can come in really on any situation. He's blocked well. He can catch it out of the backfield. They're not one of the better offensive backfields in the game or running back tandems, but I think they're moving forward in the right direction. And Najee's always had that talent. We'll see, if he can ever get it going. I don't know if it'll be against the Bills, but I think it is coming.
And the last thing on the offense, obviously I saw a lot of criticism of Matt Canada. He's first-year coordinator. It's a different offense with the rookie. Has the criticism, at least the general criticism, been fair for where they are? And do you think he'll evolve more with maybe a quarterback who will put the ball up a little bit more?
It's never been fair. It's never been fair for the offensive coordinator when the team isn't scoring enough points. He's been really the lightning rod for blame. Yeah. Some of that is understandable. Listen, some of those plays haven't worked. I think more with coordinators, it's about the execution, good and bad. Sometimes they get too much credit because things work, and maybe it's just the players making a bad play call work because they're great players. But in this town, he's taken a lot of heat. I think he has adapted a little bit. And, his relationship with Kenny Pickett goes back to when Pickett was a junior in high school. Canada was the Pitt offensive coordinator, and it was Canada that convinced Pickett to come to Pitt.
Wow.
So, and, Canada left the next year to go to LSU, where he would have been his offensive coordinator. But that relationship is strong. He really likes Kenny. I think they have a better relationship than Mitch did with Matt Canada. That part should be better, but again, it's about execution. You can draw up the greatest game plan ever, but if the players aren't doing what they're supposed to do, it's not going to work. And I think it's been more that than it is that this guy just forgot about offense.
Yeah, you made a great point about plays working when it maybe wasn't a play call and it's on the player. The Bills had a play last week on a fourth down where we watched it again, and it seemed like the entire offensive line goes to the right. Josh has three guys he goes left after a play fake. He goes left. 7 defenders. Everybody's covered. He does a pump fake, gets by 2 guys, gets 3 yards, gets the first down. The play, I still don't know what they called. It looked like a total disaster. But Josh Allen being Josh Allen, I don't even know what the offensive line was doing. There was nobody for them to block because you're watching it on the all-22, and he makes the play. And then there's other times where it's a great call and somebody misses their block and everybody wants to. We saw it,
Mike. We saw it for years here with Ben Roethlisberger, and I don't think Ben was a great athlete, but he couldn't run like Josh Allen. But it's those type of plays. He's improvised guys that, you think they're dead to right in the pocket, and yet defenders bounce off both those guys. And we just thought, our generation here just thought, oh, that's just what happens back there. But it isn't. Josh is special. I know it's quite a challenge for the Steelers, but Steeler fans know what it's like to have a quarterback like that. And Bills fans now are getting it after years of waiting for that guy.
Yeah.
You got him.
Yeah. Used to have the Pittsburgh guy and Jim Kelly. And now they got the guy from California by way of Wyoming. I used to always say this. This is my 35th year covering the team. And I used to always say after the whole Super Bowl thing, and then they moved into that drought period of 20 years, I used to say the Steelers are the franchise the Bills want to be when they grow up again. Yeah. Because it's not a huge market. It's that kind of fan. It's a provincial place. They need stability. They need an environment. They need a culture. And I think McDermott and Bean have brought that here. and now players love playing in Buffalo. Von Miller, well, he loves everything, but Von loves Buffalo. With the Steelers, never really rebuilding. Is that possible with the fan base right now? Or is it going to take this season where maybe the numbers are low for them to really say it makes more sense, take almost a step back if we're going to take 5 steps forward again?
I think the team is realizing that, and I think the fan base is too. And now that Pickett's the quarterback, I think they're more apt to follow it and still be excited and say, okay, we're going to build, but we're going to build with this guy. Let's see what this guy has. As a fan base, we'll suck it up and we'll deal with it. And truly, you know what the Steelers could use? They could use a top 10 pick. They haven't had one in decades. The only one they had, they traded up for. And that one hasn't worked out so well in Devin Bush. But I think truly, when fans step back and think about it, they're logical ones. And, we're both on Twitter. They're not all logical. And, they'll realize that this team needs an infusion of talent. And they're starting in that direction, but there's still a ways to go.
All right, last thing. You probably piqued the interest of Bills fans before when you said that Tomlin loves these kind of situations. It was a surprise last year when they came in and beat the Bills. That was the opening game. Pittsburgh's defense gave him trouble. T.J. Watt gave him trouble, as you would expect. What's the way Pittsburgh stays in this game and has a shot on Sunday? Do they have a way?
Pickett plays out of his mind. I think that's the way, that they hit a couple of big plays, which the Bills haven't really given up. But somehow they find a way to hit a couple of big plays, and defensively they just stay where they're supposed to be and limit what the Bills do, and maybe stiffen up in the red zone and make those couple of drives field goals. But they got to get something from their offense. They've got to get some ball control from their offense. We haven't seen it. I think that's why the point spread is what it is, because the Steelers haven't shown it. There's some promise there. They showed a crazy amount against Cincinnati, but I don't think this defense without T.J. Watt's going to force 5 turnovers from Buffalo. So they're going to need Kenny Pickett to play crazy football. If he does, the Steelers, I think, will be in the game. If not, it could be a long day for the fans, to your south.
Yeah, and will they travel? Because we've had games here where back in the day it was 25, 30% Steelers fans. I'm not saying expect that. I'm saying, do Steelers fans they still travel? Yeah,
they still do. Yeah, we saw it in Cleveland. We saw it in Cincinnati, although not as big in Cincinnati because so many Bengal fans weren't willing to give up their tickets as happened in the past. But yeah, they still travel. Listen, Pittsburghers, like fans from Buffalo, they plan their trips around. They already are set to go to Atlanta and to Miami and to Charlotte because that's part of their vacations. That's their, they're coming together. And I think road fans in sports are the best.
Yeah,
because they've made a true commitment to be there. It's not just that it's the cool thing to do. They want to be there and cheer on their team, and they're more knowledgeable and forgiving typically. You'll see a lot of them. A few of them will be drinking irons, so that, they'll be lubed up and ready to go, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, it should be fun to see. And like I said, I wish it's a little different for the Steelers because you've got the Bengals and the Browns right there, and Baltimore's not too far. But I wish the Bills were in that. I just think it would have been awesome to have the Bills with the Browns and the Steelers. When they talked about it before, redoing the divisions, Miami was supposed to go to the South and all those things, and Ralph Wilson didn't want to give it up because he loved the trip to Miami. And he liked it, and he liked the rivalry, but it was really Marino and Kelly. We could have avoided Tom Brady for all those years.
Right? We don't like Tom Brady either. He's crushed our dreams in Pittsburgh numerous times. But yeah, think of what that division would be. And it's very drivable. It's very easy to get to. A lot of fans will be there. And Tomlin did say at his Tuesday news conference, they feel like a division team.
Yeah.
The heck of that. The fan bases are similar. And I think the mentalities of the teams are similar.
All right. Well, this was awesome, Jeff. We really appreciate it. Let people know where they can hear you, hear your station, if they want to follow what's going on and follow you on social media.
Yeah, I mean, we do a little bit of everything now in the media. So you can follow us at 93.7 The Fan, which is at 93.7 FM in Pittsburgh. 93.7thefan.com is where I write a lot of our stuff. You can hear me on there, our show's on there. If you want to get the Pittsburgh take, I think you can get a pretty good representation of what we're saying and what we're thinking at our website, 93.7thefan.com.
All right. Awesome stuff. We really appreciate it. Thanks for being with us, and we look forward to the game coming up on Sunday. And thank you for all of you for watching. Please make sure, again, to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you the next time on the Buffalo Plus channel on YouTube.